How's it going, everybody? Today is the day of the Ben Shapiro event, but it's not going to be happening for a little while. Normally, on the day of a big breaking news story, if I'm going to live stream or if I'm focused on production and setting things up, camera people, I don't usually do a video. I usually just let the live stream be the video for the day, but because the Ben Shapiro event is at 7 p.m. Pacific time, just 10 p.m. Eastern, there's going to be a gap from my normal publishing time till when the event happens. The protests are at 6 p.m., so I figured, you know what, this video is going to come out at 4 p.m. Eastern, and the protests aren't even until 9 p.m. Eastern, so there's an opportunity for me to at least do something. I figured I could talk a bit about tribalism, Ben Shapiro at Berkeley, Sputnik, RT, propaganda, and just some thoughts on what's going on with the media space right now. So it was reported that the FBI is investigating Sputnik because they believe it is a propaganda arm of the Russian government. And I believe this includes Russia Today as well. Russia Today, or RT as most people know it now, is an international cable channel. It's been around, I believe, since 2010. And Russia Today and Sputnik are often called propaganda arms of the Russian government by people in the US. I don't think that's entirely untrue. Well, let's look at what propaganda is first. Propaganda is information that is biased with the intent to push some kind of political agenda or narrative. In which case, a lot of things are propaganda. For one, another thing I've talked about, the president of Now This News flat out said at VidCon that they're working with Trump activists, anti-Trump activists, in which case, if they are literally pushing an agenda, then Now This News is propaganda. Not only that, but we've heard over and over again this phrase, there's no such thing as objective journalism, and that mission-driven storytelling is the new thing these big companies are doing. Take a look at Newsweek. You can clearly see that they push misleading or biased information. You can look at most of the big digital media companies and see that they do the exact same thing. In which case, is Russia Today and Sputnik, are they propaganda outlets? Sure. And then so are most of these digital media companies here in the US, right? So it's not really surprising. There's been a lot of conversations about RT that I've had. And, I've appeared on RT several times. I've actually been to the Sputnik office more than a couple times. Cassandra Fairbanks used to work there. And people, they ask, why do they push this activist narrative? RT has a lot of activists on their programs. Like I said, I was a guest there. And one theory is that they want to promote dissent in the US. They want to highlight activists who are opposed to the American narrative or who would challenge the US. And so they end up having a lot of far lefty commentators and hosts and guests. The other is that Russia Today, Russia, wants to simply have an international media channel just like the US has in CNN. Now CNN obviously isn't government run, but it is basically a US perspective. The people who work there are Americans. You have the BBC, which actually is funded by, to an extent, by the British government, and that's international as well. So then the theory is that Russia wanted to do the same thing, and the only foothold they could get was this neglected space of activism. And so that argument is that Russia Today isn't trying to promote dissent, just that these are the stories that were working for them. Not a lot of people watch Russia Today. They don't get a ton of viewership. And so that's the argument. I'm not here to say which one is which, whether or not Russia is trying to promote dissent or whatever. That's not my point. The point is more that the US has media assets internationally. The UK does as well. A lot of channels do. I mean, look at Al Jazeera, that's Qatar. So Russia is doing basically the same thing. But here's what's really interesting to me. When we talk about propaganda, we talk about the Russian narrative. What they keep saying is that Russia was trying to promote white supremacists, racists. They want to get Trump elected, things like that. Okay, let's stop right here and say yes. Let's just work on the premise that Russia is putting out propaganda in the US to promote some kind of political agenda. Who are some of the biggest names at RT? Well, there was Abby Martin, right? Abby is far left, and she now works for Telesur, which is a partly Venezuelan funded, but it's, some other Central and South American countries that fund it. Far left, easy enough. Lee Camp, funny guy. I think Abby and Lee are cool people. Like this, I mean no disrespect, but RT is hiring far lefties, right? So if their goal is to produce propaganda, why are they hiring Bernie supporters? left-wing people. The narrative that we're hearing from the Russia sphere, from people like Louise Mensch, is that Russia is trying to promote Trump assets, that Trump is doing these things. It's what we hear nonstop. But when you look at what Sputnik actually reports on, police brutality, left-wing issues, not all the time. When you look at what RT covers, when you look at who they hire, who they promote. So let's talk about tribalism then. Let's move from propaganda to tribalism. Propaganda, everybody seems to be doing it, right? Tribalism. Most people, I find, don't actually care about the core issues or what is true. You can just see the bubble they're in, the tribe they're in, and the narrative they're spinning. I was on Reddit, and I was looking at a thread about how the FBI was investigating Russia and Russia Today and Sputnik. And the information posted in these comments was just dead wrong. Someone posted, they actually believed that Russia Today only started in 2017, and I could just see this huge thread of comments where they were like, yes, this is true. They were saying things like Donald Trump is allowing Russians to broadcast in the United States. Well, no, Russia Today has been around for a lot longer than Donald Trump's been president. I think it was like 2010. So I started thinking, why are these people so hell-bent on believing this? Well, sure enough, there was a comment where someone said, guys, this isn't true. I hate Trump as much as the next person, but Russia Today has been around for a long time. And this person got downvoted and attacked like crazy. How dare you challenge the narrative? They said, that has nothing to do with any of this. That's besides the point. Trump is still absolutely allowing Russian propaganda on TV. And it makes me wonder if these people actually watch Russia Today when they promote things like Black Lives Matter, when Lee Camp, makes jokes at the expense of Donald Trump nonstop. Makes me think that the real issue is not any of these political issues. The real issue is tribalism, which brings me now to Ben Shapiro. Is Ben Shapiro controversial? Kind of. I wouldn't say he's the most controversial person in the world. He's a conservative. He's got conservative opinions, so conservatives like him. He's Jewish, so a lot of the far-right, anti-Semites don't like him. He's said some very controversial things about the LGBT community, so the left doesn't like him. Is he like Milo Yiannopoulos? No, not at all. Ben Shapiro says things that can be provocative, but he's not intentionally trying to be provocative. He comes off as more someone who's just, I don't even want to say firebrand, really, but obviously he's very adamant in his beliefs and his statements, and sometimes he can be snarky. He's a personality. So it's fascinating then to see the far left here in Berkeley calling him essentially a fascist. It's hard to know if there's actually going to be protests like people seem to think. The event's going to take place a few hours after you watch this video, so we'll find out soon enough. But reportedly, they're shutting down a city block, they're locking down the building, security is super tight. I had a chance to talk with Ben just the other day. I'm putting together a mini doc about the day's events. So part of why I'm doing a video just kind of talking at you about some core issues is that most of my time is being spent dealing with how we're going to prepare for the day, if we're even going to get access to the building, and how this is going to play out. We're expecting it to be really dangerous. You've seen the videos from the Milo Yiannopoulos event. They were, Antifa went out and just started beating innocent bystanders and random people. So it could get pretty tense. But in talking with Ben, he said he thinks he'll be the safest person there because he's gonna come in. They've got a ton of security. They paid a huge fee for it. It seems like Berkeley has, to a certain extent, been. They haven't wanted these events to take place, obviously. And you can say it's because they're progressives who don't want conservatives, or you can say it's because they can't handle Antifa. But, either way, the events are going to keep setting up these events regardless, because these are not, albeit they can be controversial opinions because it's left versus right, but to conservatives, these issues are not controversial, right? These are things that half the country or more agree with, in which case, it's a college campus. If it's receiving public funding, these events are going to take place. The biggest concern in talking with Ben was that the attendees, the students, might face harm because of Antifa. And I guess it'll be interesting to see. I went down to Berkeley the other day and actually had a bunch of students. They knew who I was. They shook my hand, took selfies and all that, which was surprising because, I consider Berkeley to be like an Antifa den. And although I have had positive interactions with some people from Antifa, they've giving me high fives and handshakes. Most of the time, the interactions are violent. Threats, death threats, things like that. You know, I say this not because I'm trying to defend their actions or anything like that, but just to keep in mind that we want to make sure we step outside of the bounds of tribalism. Not just to point a finger and say Antifa is this, which is why I was also against like calling them terrorists. Yeah, we'll call the individuals and certain groups terrorists, but you know, basically when it comes to tribalism, Ben Shapiro is not the worst offender, not by a long shot, but it doesn't matter. He's a conservative. He's close enough to Milo and Ann Coulter that he is the enemy regardless of what he actually believes. Regardless of the fact that the SPLC said he was the most abused journalist when it comes to anti-Semitism. It doesn't matter. He's in the other tribe. And I guess that's the point of what I'm trying to get at. Regardless of whether it's the propaganda, the government, Antifa, everyone just seems to be in this mode of, I don't care what's right or who's right, I care if my side wins. And so a group like Antifa, these people can go out and beat innocent people, and you will still see far left who say, yeah, but that's okay when we do it. You can see people on all sides will instigate some kind of violence or do something inappropriate or be at fault, and no one wants to assume responsibility. No one wants to take the responsibility for these actions and be honest about it. I've found that when it comes to any branch of activism, left, right, whatever, when it comes to the police, when it comes to any tribe, people do not want to hold their own accountable. They do not want to confront the problems within their own communities. They want to just brush it under the rug. I see it everywhere. You know, so the sooner that people can say, you know what, on this issue we're wrong, let's move forward, then those tribes might actually stand a chance at winning. Unfortunately, as it comes to international media, who's propaganda, who's the bad guy, we're drawing the lines in the sand. When it comes to activism and politics, we're drawing the lines in the sand. And it seems like the only result of the creation of factions or the hardening of factional walls, it's going to be clashes, violence, arrests, you know, who knows. Anyway, this was a short rant, okay? I wanted to put out a video and talk about some of these issues about what was going on, but consider this a bonus video because, you know, yesterday I went out and had a meeting about getting a shooter. I want to make sure I always do a video, even if it's just something like this. And that means that I rarely sleep and I work a ridiculous amount. But even if I have to go and meet with shooters and make plans for security and stuff, I'm still gonna come out and talk to you guys about important issues. And today will be a big bonus day because not only will I have this video up at 4, this video will be at 4 p.m. I'm gonna have a live stream, presumably. You know, we don't know what's gonna happen. It might be nothing. And then also I've got a shooter and we're gonna be putting together a mini doc about the whole day. So that should be fun. So thank you all so much for hanging out. Appreciate you guys who watch these videos and care about what I have to say. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Timcast. If you want to support my work, you can go to timcast.com/donate. Give whatever you'd like or give nothing at all. My videos are always free and available every day at 4 p.m. Stay tuned. 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. It's when the protests start. And I guess we'll see what happens. Until then, take care.